Hey everyone, we're back with another week of Find Your Film. We have two big films. At least I think they're two big films this week. Okay, we're going to see what Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes have to say about Army of the Dead, which is Zack Snyder, the maestro, Zack Snyder's latest movie, streaming on Netflix this coming Friday, currently out in theaters. And there's this other movie called The Dry, headlined by Eric Bana, an actor I really, really enjoy. Eric Holmes, do you find Eric Bana to be an underrated actor? Or is he not, because he's been in so many high-profile films?
I don't know if he's underrated, but he's pretty good for sure, and he's usually awesome in everything he's in. So, I guess if the majority of people don't believe that, then yes, he's underrated.
Underrated. Bruce Perky, do you agree with Eric Holmes? Do you think do you think that's ridiculous to even call Eric Bana underrated because he's a bona fide A-lister? I'm just saying that I haven't seen him in a lot of films the last 6 years. He could be in 2 or 3 movies if he wants every year, headlining them, So,
yeah, my feeling is they tried to kind of import him as a leading man guy here to America, and that wasn't necessarily working out perfectly well. Whereas he kind of had a whole different start and fame based out of Australia. So I don't think in Australia he's underrated, but I think here he might be slightly, because you know how Hollywood is. Like, if you don't make it in a couple big movies, you're out of here.
Beat it, nerd.
That's right.
Beat it, nerd. We're going to be talking about if Eric Bana's new film, The Dry, is actually wet with excellence. I don't know. I'm just trying to make things up.
Only you, Greg. Only you are wet with excellence.
Thank you. That's why I had to change of clothing before we started recording this. Speaking of wet, but yes,
you might want to change your name. Army of the Greg is good, but I think wet with excellence is even better.
With excellence. Speaking of liquid excellence and wetness and everything raining down, maybe raining down awesomeness, we're gonna have to see if Eric Holmes and Bruce Perky really loved Army of the Dead. Spoiler alert, I'm a Zack Snyder fanatic who still hasn't seen the Snyder Cut. So I guess, you know what, saying that, you're going to know my reaction on Army of the Dead. Let's see how that plays with Eric and Bruce for this episode of Find Your Film. Also, Eric, you have a bunch of recommendations this week. So I don't know if you want to tease me. You want to tease me. Look, tease me with the wetness. Tease me, the wetness, teasing, everything. Do you have some really good movies to share as far as all of your recommendations this week?
Yes, I got Those Who Wish Me Dead, the new Taylor Sheridan joint. I went back to the movie theater, saw Spiral, the new Saw joint, I guess, or book, as it were. Got a movie called The Battery, and another one called Dark Water. Pretty sure most people have seen that already, but yeah, we'll touch on it for a little bit.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's a lot of. Those are 2 or 3 episodes, Eric. You have way too many recommendations. Bruce, tell me. Okay, you're going to take over my recommendations, Eric. Don't tell me. Do you have any recommendations, Bruce, on this one?
I just have one which might make it to my category, which did not get filled last year. The year before, I had 2 possibly terrible movies that I loved, The Fanatic and Serenity.
Terrible movies. The Fanatic is a mess. Are you going to stand for that? Eric Holmes, he's just called The Fanatic a terrible. That's a work of art.
And Serenity.
I love.
What is this?
I believe that. Yeah, actually, Bruce said that before I did.
Yeah, I would say these are commonly derided movies that I loved.
Awesome.
And I didn't really have a good one last year that kind of fit that category, but I might have a good one today, which is Shadow in the Cloud.
Shadow in the Clouds or Cloud? Shadow in the Cloud? Shadow in the Cloud?
Cloud.
Shadow in the Cloud. Okay, I'm excited to hear that. Should Eric and I definitely see this as soon as possible, huh? Maybe. I don't know. We're gonna get into your
83 minutes long. How's that for you?
Oh, okay. Bruce Perky knows how to. Speaking of wet my appetite, because anything when he says 80 minutes or 82 minutes, maybe even 90 minutes, he knows I'm gonna hop to it and watch that movie. Maybe Shadow in the Clouds is next for me and Eric with his 4 or 5 recommendations this week. I'm assuming he's probably even watching it while we're recording the podcast. He watches so many movies each week.
I'm watching 5 of them on the screens right now, and I'll get to those at the end of the show.
Very, very. Thank you so much, Eric Holmes. And I like to say this, we're gonna round out the last part of our podcast. Bruce Perky, you have a little gem from Pete Abeyta, one of the dudes from the middle class film class. What do you got for us for your
I don't know how to say it, but it's Post Tenebras Lux.
Post Tenebras Lux. Okay, that is a choice from Pete Abeyta. Love that. And again, my last episode, Bruce, I called Pete's friend a turtle, and you corrected me a tortoise, right? It's a tortoise.
Yes.
I apologize again to Mr. Abeyta for the tortoise, and I guess he's foisted us Post Tenebras Lux, which, by the way, Eric Holmes, you're always the one who does the extra credit homework. You also saw Post Tenebras Lux. Was that your first time watching it, or fully?
Yeah, all the way through. Yes, that's the first time. It was rough, but we'll get there.
It was rough. It was rough. Yeah. Okay. Did you come out a changed man from that experience?
No.
No. Okay. Bruce, did you come out a changed man from Post Tenebras Lux? Did you just...
I wanted to pull my hair out, I think, by the end of it.
You pull your hair out. Okay. Visual. Nice. Very good. You know what? We're just going to start right off. No movie rewinds, no recommendation. We're going to get to recommendations right now. Let's just not bury the lead. Zack Snyder. I've seen almost every Zack Snyder film. What was the first zombie movie he did? I forgot the name of it.
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. I still haven't seen this. Bruce Perky and Eric, are you both champions of that Snyder film?
I liked it. The original Dawn of the Dead. The weird thing is, original Dawn of the Dead is usually the one that people lift up the most, and I think of Romero's. Probably not the worst, but it's my least favorite. You get into Diary of the Dead and all that, but between Night of the Living Dead and Land of the Dead, I think Dawn of the Dead might be my least favorite one. It's still good though, and the remake was good. I didn't have the baggage going in when I first saw it. I just thought it was a cool zombie movie.
And Bruce, did you think this Dawn of the Dead, was it a cool zombie movie when you first saw it? And then when you first saw it, maybe were you excited to see more of this person's films?
Yeah, I think that Snyder's Dawn of the Dead might still be my favorite movie he's made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just very quickly, because of its
probably because it's written by somebody else.
Okay. All right. And moving forward, we're gonna go.
James Gunn wrote it, so
because I'm a Snyder fanatic, I'm just gonna skip over this review. Let's just talk about the dry right now. We're gonna skip over Army of the Dead. Let's just talk about the dry. I'm gonna be the most boring part of this review, so I'm just gonna do a quick plot summation, and we're gonna get to Bruce and Eric, okay? Because you guys are gonna know how much I love Army of the Dead. Anyways, it's shot, meaning it's lensed, it's deep. Zack Snyder is the director. I'm assuming a producer and the cinematographer behind Army of the Dead, a new Netflix movie currently in theaters that centers on a zombie outbreak that occurs in Las Vegas. What happens now is within a span of 72 hours, that whole Las Vegas Sin City will be nuked. It will be nuked. All of those zombies, and including a zombie tiger, will be incinerated. The thing is, there is, I think, $200 or $220 million hidden in some kind of bank vault in one of the hotels. And this organizer, this really rich man wants to get that $220 million out. So he hires Dave Bautista to actually take the money out. And Bautista plays this guy named Scott Ward. You're assuming he's some kind of mercenary military guy. He's currently, when we see him, he's flipping burgers at a local joint, making obviously no money, but he's hired to actually go to Las Vegas before the bomb hits and take all that money out. He has to actually recruit several people to join him in this ragtag mission to get that money out before the place gets bombed up. And that's it. The first, as I think either Eric, you or Bruce noted, that the first 50 minutes is just a lead up. Okay, the opening moments, it's kind of a Snyderverse situation where you have a lot of zombie action, which I think is very cool, but a lot of, maybe almost half of the movie is just a lot of character building and exposition, which, by the way, this movie is 2 hours and 28 minutes, 148 minutes of Zack Snyder. Now, if you love, by the way, the casino boss.
It's a short for Snyder, right?
It is a short for Snyder. The casino boss is Bly Tanaka, who's played by Hiroyuki Sanada. Hiroyuki Sanada, you've seen him in The Last Samurai, and he has one of my favorite sequences ever in cinema. In Sunshine. That's a very, very wonderful sequence. And as Bruce nods, hopefully you're nodding at how awesome Army of the Dead is. Now that's the plot summary of this. Oh, don't with the thumb. I give this, I was saying 4.5 stars last night. This is a straight 4 out of 5 movie. It's a popcorn flick. I wish I'm going to have Bruce Perky and possibly Eric Holmes throw up right now. My nice complaint is I could have taken 3.5 hours of Army of the Dead. I loved every single character, loved the character development, loved the action when they eventually got to it in the third act. To me, this was a near perfect film. The only nitpicks I have is Some of the dialogue, especially, I'm not going to give too much away. There's a recurring dialogue about a food truck, which I thought was unnecessary. And I'm not going to mention what's in the food truck because that would be spoilerish, I guess. But aside from the food truck, that was the only blemish behind Army of the Dead. For me, it's 2 hours and 28 minutes of awesomeness. So that is 100% positive. Zack Snyder. Team Snyder. I'm going to start off with, do I start off with Bruce or Eric? Eric, who do I start off? You or Bruce? What do you call it?
Let's go with Bruce.
Let's go with Bruce.
We'll end on a
son of
positive
gun.
note.
You son of, okay. Bruce Perky.
All right, let's see. We got a story about a band of mercenaries getting sent into a quarantine zombie zone to get some money. Oh, wait, that's Train to Busan Peninsula from last year. Okay, we have a walled off city that is now an apocalyptic zone with a time limit to get in and out before you die. Oh yeah, that was Escape from New York. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I didn't find the action very exciting.
Really?
I didn't find the heist interesting. This is like...
How about entertain? Were you entertained? Were you not?
No, I was very bored by this. So,
oh wow, okay.
I guess I look at it this way: cheeseburger movie. This is a cheeseburger movie, right? Fast food movies. The way I look at it is, a fast food movie, you know, you're not going to get any nutrition from it. You know, you're probably going to feel, not super satisfied by the end, but you want it to taste good when you're eating it. And to me, this movie didn't taste good while I was eating it. It was like eating a frozen pizza and wanting like a real pizza. You know. This is like the girl who was the popular cheerleader in high school, goes to college and puts on glasses and talks about how random she is and what a nerd she was. This is like someone faking. They're faking. I mean, it's.
You're saying this movie is a piece of cinematic fakery. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's just mediocrity in every aspect of it to me. And it's Snyder doing all of his worst tactics and just doing them all in a mediocre way. And I wasn't I literally can count the fun moments in this movie on like half of a hand. You know, there was a moment with a tiger that I really liked. There was a joke by Tig Notaro, who was, I think, CGI'd into this movie, that I liked. And a whole bunch of stuff that I either was bored by or thought was really mediocre and I'd seen done better somewhere else. Or I just wasn't feeling it. And here's another example. Music, right? Snyder with music, songs. And I'm not going to describe a song. We all know what it is. But if Snyder had picked the music for like Reservoir Dogs at that opening scene when they're all walking towards us, it would have been like Who Let the Dogs Out? Like that's the kind of on the nose music choices he does in this movie. It's like the most generic, obvious music choices that he could possibly pick. I mean, people are going to love this movie. They probably will love it. But if you actually sit back and think about it, for all the things it's doing, it doesn't do any of them very well. And you could see 3 other movies that do each of those kind of movies better. You can see a better heist movie. You can see a better zombie movie, better post-apocalyptic movie, better action movie. All of them.
Okay. Well, wow. Before we get to you, Eric Holmes' movie also stars along with Dave Bautista. In my opinion, some really good performances from Ella Purnell. She plays Kate Ward, the daughter of Scott Ward. Scott Ward played by Dave Bautista. Omari Hardwick's in this as well. Ana de la Reguera, and she's very good. Theo Rossi, he plays this, border guard who's a little bit corrupt, who's part of the crew. And there's this woman who I've never seen her in anything, Nora Arnezetter. Arnezetter, I think. She plays Lily, the coyote. I think she's very good in this movie as well. Of course, there's Garrett Dillahunt, who plays the right-hand man of Bly Tanaka. Garrett Dillahunt is always a welcome feature. I wish there was a little bit more of him in this, but he's very good as well. Eric Holmes, what is your take? Obviously, Bruce Perky definitely not no recommend for Bruce Perky. This is a strong recommend for you. For me. You're gonna have to go on one side or the other by the end of this. I want you to vote in.
Well, first of all, I don't know if Zack Snyder listens to podcasts. Probably not. Probably doesn't care about movie reviews of his movies, especially people that in the past just done nothing but shit on them. But I'm an editor. I know how to edit movies, and I can edit yours to get them down. There's a great movie here, and that great movie is about 90 minutes long, but this one's 2.5 hours long. So right away, it's quite bloated, especially for the story that it's telling. It's not like this sprawling epic that you need, it's not Dune. You don't need all that you don't need all that time. But for, rather than review the movie for what it isn't, I'll review it for what it is. First, the opening scene, the title sequence. Zack Snyder does that Zack Snyder thing that he did in the Watchmen. And, he does in a lot of it. He has these really opulent opening title sequences. And I really like this one. And I kind of like when he does that. He kind of shines in that music video kind of area. And then it has a pretty decent opening scene where the zombies get out, and then there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be there. And it just kind of keeps going and keeps going, and it does the exact same thing that Justice League, the Snyder Cut, did, where you got that full first half that's like, come on, let's go. Okay, zombies, heist, let's move it along. And then it's not until like the last hour where everything finally starts getting fun, and I'm actually enjoying it. Tig Notaro, she was I don't know the full story, but she came on late. They Christopher Plummered her in it and place like Kevin Spacey or whoever they took out. And I knew the name Tig Notaro. I didn't really know who she was, but I really like her in this, and I kind of wish she would be in like a Shane Black movie or like a Predator or something. Her character's a little too over the top here, but like I could see her like in a really cool action movie, kind of similar to this, but like maybe like a Shane Black version, or so she's really good.
Yeah. By the way, she replaced Chris D'Elia.
That makes sense now.
So
yeah. I did hear about that. I didn't know that was okay. That makes sense. And hey, Zack Snyder, good on you. That was probably a good move.
Good call. Yeah.
But I think the last hour of this is probably where it gets really fun. Of course, Bruce is probably checked out by then. And
definitely the 45 minutes before the last 15, that was the best part of the movie. Yeah, for sure. And like I won't cut you off, but other than to say, like what you said at the beginning, I think is exactly to the point. I mean, I kind of slammed on it, but to get more like specific, I mean, he does this great montage, and in like how many minutes is that opening title sequence? It tells us the entire downfall of Vegas, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be cheap to do it, but you essentially could do the exact same thing with all the characters. I mean, you could introduce all the characters to the moment they're walking into Vegas in probably 10 minutes at the most.
Yeah, actually, do that opening montage. Bam, they're in Vegas, ready to pull the heist,
and cut the daughter and her subplot entirely out of the movie. Entirely.
Exactly.
That cuts 30 minutes out of this movie. It cuts a ridiculous subplot in the last 20 minutes that absolutely makes no sense and is unnecessary and ridiculous. I mean, it's a zombie movie, so it's being ridiculous, but that's extra ridiculous. And then one other little thing, you can't show a character get bit by one zombie and turn into a zombie within minutes, and then have that same zombie bite another character and have it take hours for that person to turn into zombie. You got to have those rules in your movie. You've got to have that.
Oh, you can do that because it's in the script. It was in the script. So the weird thing is that these aren't zombies, though.
They're vampires.
Pretty much. I mean, there's zombie vampires, and that's not really. I don't think that's really a knock against the movie. I almost kind of feel like that Zack Snyder should just lean into his. I mean, he basically invented a new monster. I would have just leaned into it.
Yeah. Honestly, you could have just almost made this a remake of Escape from New York, thrown out the heist entirely, give them another reason to go in there. They're going to save somebody, like Escape from New York. They're going to save somebody, and here's this zombie vampire universe, and let the zombie vampire universe be the story, because it's interesting. This is the most interesting thing here.
I will say, though, this movie was really kind of getting under my skin in a bad way. And I was like, oh, fuck this thing. And then we were messaging back and forth, and Bruce was still watching it.
Yeah.
And I think I was actually tickled by the fact that Bruce was hating it so much that it kind of made me love it more. Because I started thinking, because up till now I've been reviewing this movie as a movie, but now I'm reviewing it kind of how it makes me feel, and now it's kind of making me feel kind of giddy. And I know it took me a long time to get there, but this is a Snyder cut of my review, so it's going to go on a little longer than it should. But zing.
Very good. Very
But
good.
this is a movie that if you're going to go see this, it's playing in theaters. Go bring your buddies. Or if you're going to watch it on Netflix, I think, was it come out on Netflix this weekend or next weekend?
This week on
weekend,
Friday.
Okay. When it comes out on Netflix, get your buddies, get drunk and watch this. Like, this is that kind of movie. Maybe you'll legitimately, earnestly like it and enjoy it. And in that case, that's great. But if you don't, you can kind of poke fun at it, and that's great. That's enjoying it in a different way. I mean, there's beyond what I think of it. Kind of agree with Bruce that what we say doesn't really matter, because I think this is gonna be one that people are gonna like. This is gonna be the horror movie that people that don't really watch a lot of horror movies watch, because it's not it's got its thrills here and there, but it's not scary. So I think it's a lot more accessible for.
Yeah, it's way more an action movie than it is a horror movie.
Yeah,
really. I mean, it's a very gory action movie because you've got kind of like monsters. They could be anything. They don't have to be zombies in this movie. Really, zombie mythos is kind of beside the point.
Yeah. I just think that Zack Snyder's like the good version of Michael Bay, and I can deal with that.
I can agree with that too.
Okay, so that is Army of the Dead, currently in theaters, hits Netflix on Friday. Again, I really loved everything about this movie. The 50-minute lead up worked for me. It reminded me of the Robert Aldrich film, The Dirt. I'm sure Bruce is just, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes right now, 75% on the tomato meter, 80% on the audience score. And yeah, no, I loved every single character in this movie. The 50 minutes of character buildup reminded me a little bit of Robert Aldrich's The Dirty Dozen or John Sturgis's The Magnificent Seven. A lot of suicide mission, the whole suicide mission trope, The Wild Bunch. There's a little bit of that flavor into Army of the Dead. Yes, they could have done the characters in a montage, but I think the point of what Snyder was trying to go for with Army of the Dead, he was trying to make an epic narrative. This epic narrative set in Vegas with these ragtag individuals, these misfits trying to get in and get out. And I thought it was great. I thought as pure entertainment, it absolutely worked for me. 4 stars for me, at least. I was thinking like maybe even, maybe even 4.5. I mean, I'm very high on this. Bruce Perky, not high on this. Eric Holmes, do you recommend this movie or not?
I would. And I would also warn certain people, because there's a part at the end that happens, and I was watching it and I spit out my cranberry juice. I don't know what's in your head, Bruce. What did you think of that?
I spit out my cranberry juice too when I was drinking it. Absolutely.
Okay, so definitely a not recommend from Bruce. Strong recommend from me, and Eric Holmes, slight recommend.
This is a recommend. There's a lot of people are going to watch this, and a lot of people are going to enjoy this. And even though it didn't grab me all the way, there's some fun to be had here. And I think most people that would go into this kind of movie are just going to eat it up.
Yeah, I mean, for that sake, this has a way higher rating, and I consider it a cheesy movie, whereas the cheesy movie I'm going to talk about later has a way lower rating. So I'm just not on the same cheese level. I like a different kind of cheese, apparently. So maybe mine is Munster. I don't know.
I'm
a
provolone guy myself. Eric Holmes, what is your favorite type of cheese?
I just had this conversation with a friend of mine last night. We decided it was Munster.
Oh, Munster
or Moinster.
I think Greg, your cheese is Colby Zach.
Cheese is Pulpy Zach. Fair enough. I will take that. I'm Pulpy Zach, Pulpy Snyder. That's my favorite cheese. I will be till the day I die. I will be defending Mr. Snyder. And I still haven't seen the Snyder Cut. Bruce, your thoughts? You think I'm going to say the Snyder Cut's a masterpiece? What do you think when I see it?
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Oh, you haven't? I thought you haven't seen it yet.
No, I'm not going to see the Snyder Cut unless I have some big incentive to do so. I'm not going to see it.
I would watch this movie again over the Snyder Cut anytime.
Oh, any kind? Okay.
Twice.
Cool.
Yeah. In 2.5 hours, I get to watch it twice.
Okay, well, who knows, Bruce? Maybe one of these days. One of these days. You know what? If I ever get, I'm 50. I don't know if I'll ever get married, but if I ever get married and we have a destination wedding in, let's say, Alabama. Maybe I'll go out there and maybe
anyone ever had a destination wedding in Alabama?
Destination wedding in Alabama. Eric Holmes, of course, you're invited. We will bring Angie Clark and Jeffrey Basson. Jeff Basson, we know your name now. My fault on that. Pete Abeyta, Chad Wilfong. They're all invited to the wedding. and then during the wedding, we're not even going to go through. We're just going to watch the Snyder Cut. That's a whole big screen, and that's it.
And we go to the wedding, and then after that, we watch the Snyder Cut, which will be the wetting.
With the wedding, and then maybe after hours we'll do the real for the real folks who are sticking around. We'll do a screening of the death of Dick Long, right? There you go. That's what we'll do. Okay, that'll be a weird nuptials. But anyways, so that is it. That is Army of the Dead. We are now on to our second main feature. I am guessing that Bruce Perky will like this more. I am guessing. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. This movie's called The Dry. It hits theaters May 21st. And quote, everywhere you rent movies. Eric Bana, he plays a federal officer who his federal agent, Aaron Falk, he returns back home to a small town. It's in the middle of dry season. It hasn't rained in forever. His childhood best friend, Luke, is killed. But the thing is, it might be a murder-suicide situation where Luke is killed and his wife is killed and his son is killed. The only one left alive is the baby. So there is a murder that people think, he probably killed most of his family except the baby, and then maybe put himself out into the middle of, I guess, in a field and shot himself with a shotgun. And now his best friend, federal agent Aaron Falk comes to the town to actually attend the funeral, and he's about to leave, but the parents of his childhood friend ask him to stay and investigate the murder. And they believe that their son was not a killer, that maybe there was some foul play involved. That is the story of The Dry. But the thing is, what makes The Dry interesting is the reason Aaron Falk, his return home is a little bit bittersweet and maybe even haunting and maybe nightmarish is years ago, Aaron Falk left the town along with his father because of a traumatic situation which involved one of his own friends, 17-year-old Ellie Deacon. So Ellie Deacon and another woman named Gretchen and Luke and Aaron, these 4 teenagers. So the movie cuts a little bit to the past where you see these 4 youths and they're playing around a lake and one of them dies. That's not a spoiler. That's the whole premise of the thing. So there's 2 murders that has to be solved. A cold case murder from years ago of one of his friends and another one of his friends who was recently murdered. That's all set within this arid, dry, just very bleak landscape in Australia. That is the setting of The Dry. A lot of the compositions are widescreen shot. So if you're actually watching this in the theater, it'll be pretty much a sight to behold. Of course, if you like a lot of dirt, it's right up, should be right up your alley. So that is The Dry. First off, Eric Holmes, your initial thoughts, overall thoughts on this movie. Did it work for you?
This reminded me a lot of The Dig, where I recognize it as a good movie, but it never really grabbed me. Obviously the opening scene was pretty haunting, and not the last scene, but the almost last scene, that was a thing that happened. But like everything in the middle it was similar to The Dig, where I'm watching going, okay. And then as soon as the thing happened, I completely forgot what I just saw. And then this might be one of those movies that I don't even want to say I didn't like it, because I didn't hate watching it. I just didn't remember any of it. But given my thoughts on The Dig and what people thought of that afterwards, my guess is that people are going to like this a lot more than I did and probably go back to it a lot more. I don't know. But overall, this one was pretty, as Anderson says, in one eye out the other for me.
In one eye out the other for Eric Holmes. Yeah, for me, Eric Bana just reminded me how awesome an actor Eric Bana is in this movie. Aaron Falk, he's a guy who really holds everything close to his vest. The warning to Eric Holmes' words, this is a big warning. If you don't like slow build thrillers, it should not be for you, because this movie is close to 2 hours and it's somewhat of a procedural. You see Aaron Falk just going by just a routine situation of just investigating this murder. He actually takes the local cop under his wing, in a sense, and he gets to know all the people within the town. It's very methodical. Aaron Falk, again, is not an extrovert, so a lot of this movie is internal. So if you're not ready for that kind of thriller where it's slow burn all throughout the movie and it's very nuanced.
But the kill, I don't think it's so much that it was a slow burn. I think it was just that there wasn't anything like remarkable about it, because like Killing of Two Lovers is a slow burn. And actually it's real similar to this. It's got that really memorable beginning and that really memorable ending, and then the rest in the middle is just things happening. But for some reason, maybe it was just I was invested in the characters more than I was. I was invested in the characters more in the Killing of Two Lovers than I was in the characters of The Dry. But yeah, it wasn't so much the pacing. I think it was just I don't know. Never mind. Well, we'll let y'all talk about it.
No worries. So Eric, you were not invested as much. I was definitely invested. I really enjoyed it. But again, I was thinking about the people who might not enjoy it regarding the slow build. Bruce, where do you land on this?
I'm probably pretty close to Eric on this. I think it's good, but not great. And I think it's one of those things where if you like kind of a very traditional kind of crime mystery, it's okay at that. But I honestly think that's what weakens this movie, because it has a parallel story, right? It has the story of kind of his haunted past, which kind of drove him out of the town, and how the town thinks of him. And then it's got this other parallel story of the current murder mystery, basically. Or is it a murder mystery? Or is it a suicide? Or what is it? And I think the current like mystery aspect is kind of generic and not that interesting, even though they're using it to reveal the past. I think really the most interesting thing to me is the past event and kind of all these, the way the town sees him and stuff. But I like his performance, but he's also, like you said, he's very reserved. And you almost feel like you need somebody who's to kind of counter him, someone that's vivacious or energetic or something, whereas like we talked about the Killing of Two Lovers, they're quiet performances, but they're intense as hell. Like and they stick with you. Whereas this one is very like stuff is happening to him. So, and I think the setting is great. And you're going to get comparisons to things like, Picnic at Hanging Rock with kind of this mysterious past thing that happened that's kind of haunted the area, but it doesn't have that kind of dreaminess to it. Really, it doesn't have that kind of style. It's a little bit like, to be obvious, it's kind of dry. Like the movie is kind of dry in its presentation.
Dry. Yeah.
So I would say if you like kind of traditional kind of crime mysteries, crime dramas that aren't really extra violent and flashy, that this might be right up your alley. You might like it more than myself and Eric. I would recommend it, but very cautiously. I think that a lot of people are going to be kind of bored by this because it's not going to have enough happening for them. And I just wish it was more of just him and the town and his past, coming to grips with his past, and somehow make that the center of the story more.
I thought overall, I do agree. I thought the past murder was more interesting because it's really looks into the layers behind that. If I do have a nitpick, I wish they actually explored a couple of those scenes more, especially towards the final act, which I was actually asking for some clarification from Eric Holmes.
Which were
and Bruce Perky. Like, what? But no, that's a couple of nitpicks for me. But I think the main mystery worked for me. The atmosphere of the movie, the idea of things being dry, arid, the whole life is sucked out of them. It works. And unfortunately, when you're viewing it, it's painful to watch sometimes because it feels like the movie has lost all of its color because everyone is pretty much drained from life pretty much. And, so I really enjoyed the whole vibe of this movie. There are some really cool wide screen shots. Like Bruce was talking about the Peter Weir's The Picnic at Hanging Rock. While that's more atmospheric and The Dry is exactly dry, there are some really interesting vistas that the director really employed. What is the director's name? Let me look him up.
Robert Connolly.
Robert Connolly. Thank you, Bruce. So that is The Dry, based on the best-selling novel. And yeah, I ended up really, really digging it. Slight recommend from you, Bruce. Yeah. Eric Holmes, is it a slight recommend or no recommend for you?
It's not a recommend for me, but again, I think there's just like The Dig. I think there's people there. This is not a bad movie. It's just one that didn't work for me, and I think there's people that are going to like it. But there's probably people that are going to land on my camp as well. So we'll see.
Currently, as we speak on Rotten Tomatoes, whether you find that as a really good arbiter of ratings, currently with 35 reviews as of this recording, it has a rating of 94%. And again, that is The Dry, 1 hour and 58 minutes. It's a bit of a miracle that both these movies, The Dry and Army of the Dead, are a little bit above 80 minutes, and I loved them both because I usually do not like movies above 80
if there
minutes.
was a movie that needed to be 69% on IMDb, I think Army of the Greg should, or
Army of the
Army of the
Greg.
Dead should be that movie.
Oh yeah, Army of the Greg. Yes,
I want to
yes.
see Army of the Greg. Las Vegas filled with zombie Gregs.
A lot of what would it be? Army, if it was Army of the Greg set in Las Vegas, how would it be shot? It would be shot with a lot of close-ups, a lot of push-ins, which I know Anderson Cowan hates. There'll be a lot of split screens.
It'd be a bunch of zombies apologizing to each other and self-deprecating.
No, you eat him first. You eat him. I can't finish him. No, there's no way.
No, you have it. I had brains. It was good. It was good.
Very good, Eric. And then long monologues that don't go anywhere. And of course, the piece de resistance. Way too many following shots to count. And so a lot of following shots all over the bleeping place. Obviously, these following shots would be steady cam version and no bleeping cuts. Maybe if there are cuts, I might just, there'll be hidden cuts. So that's the Army of the Greg, comes out on VOD immediately. Shot and directed by Anderson Cowan and Eric Holmes, with some production values from Bruce Perky. So that's it. That is the no Bruce. Okay, so those are our two movies. This segment is called Eric Holmes Has a Lot of Movies to Talk About. Okay, no movie rewind, no recommendations. These are Eric Holmes has a lot of movies to talk about. Let's start off from the top, Eric.
All right, let's start off with Those Who Wish Me Dead, because this one kind of is real similar to The Dry. And
Before you get to that, Eric, I've read some. Okay, I've read some reviews, some reactions from our Cinematics Facebook group. My mother really enjoyed it. A lot of people don't like this movie. They're saying it's a minor film from Sheridan.
Yeah.
But then there are other people who say this is a great throwback. And it's just, I don't know if you've been hearing the reactions, Bruce. It's just night and day reactions. And can you like talk about that within your review? Because
I don't claim to know what's in people's heads. What's in their heads? Sorry, we had to go back to that, didn't we? But this is a really good movie. It's not Taylor Sheridan's best. It's probably his worst movie, but and it's not even really a bad movie. It's just, I think it might just be because Taylor Sheridan, what he did, Sicario,
Water. Yeah.
Hell or High Water,
yeah.
Wind River, like he just keeps stepping it up. And this one, if the rest of his movies are like 8 out of 10s, this one's like, or if the rest of his movies are 10 out of 10s, this one's like an 8 out of 10, which is still really good. And if it was anyone else making this movie, they'd be like, wow, Those Who Wish Me Dead was really good. I think since it was Taylor Sheridan, I think people were waiting for that little extra that he gave with Hell or High Water or Sicario, and it's just not here. But it's still.
And do you think that's unfair? That might be unfair, because why don't you just enjoy the movie for what it is? And maybe
no. I mean, with the if Tarantino comes out with the movie, it happened with Tarantino. Death Proof. I think Death Proof is great.
That's a great movie.
But or even to a better example, Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown came out. Unfortunately, came out after Pulp Fiction. So, and Death Proof, came out later on. So people were expecting, they come in with expectations, and it might not be fair, but it's a case of that doesn't happen if the filmmakers aren't successful. So what do they say? It's a good problem to have. But yeah, this is still a pretty tight thriller, and it's it's really good. Angelina Jolie, can't remember the last thing I seen her in, and then I forgot. It was like, oh yeah, she's really fucking good. And I kind of this movie kind of made me miss Angelina Jolie a bit, and kind of hope she shows up in more stuff right away. Beyond the Taylor Sheridan thing, I started thinking of Only the Brave, which right away I had to pause the movie and just walk away for a bit and go, okay, we have to get Only the Brave out of my head, because there's no way in hell this movie's going to live up to that.
Of course, it's such a great movie, though.
Bernthal. What's his name?
Yeah, John Bernthal.
John Bernthal. He's in it. He likes to look around a lot when he's acting. But he's so like, everyone in this is pretty good. The story's pretty simple. This guy has some information, and there's two hitmen or two gangsters or whatever that don't want that information getting out. They want to kill him. They chase him down and run his car off the road. and they don't know that his son is in there with him. Dad's about to die. He hands his son this thing and hands him the MacGuffin. Well, I guess it's not really a MacGuffin. We know what it is. It's information that'll fuck them. Yeah, that's a MacGuffin. Anyway, he hands him the stuff, and he's like, find a creek, follow the creek. Creeks turn into rivers, and rivers lead to cities. Just keep going. Don't talk to any cops. Don't talk to anyone. The only people you need to talk to is the news. And then hand this to him, and everything will be done. Dad dies, and the kid's sad because he has to watch his dad get murdered. He figured he might get a little. So anyway, he's running, and then you got Angelina Jolie, who's on like one of those watchtowers, looking for smoke. There's a fire over there. She's a smoke jumper, I guess. And she gets down, she runs into the kid, and then wants to help him out. And they're pretty much running from the guys this way, but then there's a fire starts up this way, so they're kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place, and that's the movie. It doesn't go much deeper than that, and I don't think it really needs to, except for the fact that it's Taylor Sheridan that wrote and directed it, so people kind of expect it to be more. But yeah, this is totally watchable. But if you got your hopes that this is going to be another Sicario or Hell or High Water, it is not, but it's still really good.
And it's currently streaming right now on HBO Max, if you have a subscription to HBO Max. So this is a definite recommend for you, strong recommend, Eric Holmes?
Yeah, again, like I said, if you're expecting top shelf Taylor Sheridan, you're just getting just below that, a little below that. So just know that going in.
Okay, so that is the first one. That is Those Who Wish Me Dead. Definitely want to. I'll probably check it out now that you like it a little bit more than a lot of people I've heard it from. Some people really just don't like that movie, but you like it. My mom liked it. That's fair enough. Spiral. That's been getting really mediocre, lukewarm reviews.
And now this one I don't get. Directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. I thought it was written by Chris Rock, but apparently not. It was written by Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger.
Okay.
I guess they named a band after him. This is... okay, so a bunch of people are complaining about this. I think this is like the most focused Saw movie. I don't know what you guys think of the previous Saw movies, and I like them. I don't think I saw the Jigsaw was the only one I didn't watch. But when Saw came out, my friend Gabe Patton found a thing of it. It was like, hey, let's watch this movie Saw. So that became like our movie. So every time a new Saw came out, me and Gabe would get together and just that. Saw was our movie, so we go and watch all of them until I moved out here to Colorado Springs, and we don't do that anymore. But for the most part, I like the Saw movies. The biggest complaint I have with them is that you go in for the interesting kills, and what about the story? I couldn't tell you what the story is. They're so unbelievably convoluted.
Yes.
And if you put a gun to my head and said, I want to play a game, you need to tell me the story of Saw 1 or 2 or 3 or any of them, or you will die, or you can cut your fingers off. And I'll be like, I guess I'm cutting my fingers off because I could not tell you. But this one's much more focused. It's a copycat Saw killer, and he's going around killing dirty cops. And Chris Rock is the center of all this. And so it's pretty timely for sure. And it's a great premise for a Saw movie, or a plot for a Saw movie. And I think this one works. I don't quite. It's still a Saw movie, so where the copycat sets up the traps are kind of ridiculous, and there's stuff that they do in the police department that just flat out just don't work. And I would have to get into spoilers to explain why they don't work, but it's not. It's one of those things you see it happening and you go, how did no one see him drag in all that fucking rusted metal and
yeah,
razor blades and shit? And it's like, but that's kind of a trope of the Saw movies anyway. So you just kind of let that go. But Christopher Rock, Chris Rock, he's great in this, and I want to see him do more stuff like this. And I pitched a Assault on Precinct 13 movie a couple episodes ago with the Black Lives Matter bent to it. Kind of wish. Hey, Chris Rock, if you're listening, do that one. I'll help you write it, but yeah, go ahead and do that. Chris Rock's great in this, and I really want to see him do more. I kind of wish he would have directed this, honestly, because Top 5 was a really good movie. And I'm pretty sure Chris Rock directed that.
Yeah, he did. You got good reviews for that one too. I remember.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't direct this one or write it for that matter, because I mean he's a good writer too. I think the Spiral, like, even though, well, first of all, the title sucks. Spiral is a good title. Spiral's fine. Spiral from the Book of Saw. Like, come on, guys. It's like the end of the Mandalorian.
They're trying to like put it.
It's just I think it's that new catchphrase they have for the titles. It's like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. It's like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Jungle Book. That's all you get. Jungle Book and nothing.
How is it going to theaters? You have fun going to theaters?
Oh yeah, I did see this. I saw this in IMAX, and I don't think any of it was shot in IMAX, but it was still fun. There was no one there. Same as when when was the last time? Tenet, I think. But there was more people there than when I saw Tenet, but like not by much. But it was still fun going there. I ordered some food at the concession stand, hit the little tip thing. I think it was like $9 and I tipped 10. And the guy's like, well, you can't tip more than the thing. I'm like, well, can you just charge me more for whatever? And so, cool. But yeah, if you go to the movie theaters and if you can tip the people working at the concession stand at the movie theaters, do that. I would say at this point, theaters are so close to death that anything you can do to kind of, just $5 here or whatever, and any little bit you can give them, they probably need help. Even though,
That was very cool, Eric. $10 tip. And did you order? Did they make you order anything, or did they just accept the $10 tip?
No. He had to take a smaller tip, but I had $5 in my pocket, so I just handed that to him.
Well, that's very nice. That's very nice. Listeners, if you ever see someone who looks like me giving you a $10 tip behind the counter, guess what? That's not me. Okay, so but good job on Eric Holmes being the better person. That is Spiral. He's going back to theaters. Bruce Perky's been going back to theaters. You've been going back to theaters as well, Bruce, right? You're ready. You're open. You're good.
Yeah, I saw Nobody, and I saw Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, whichever one it was. And then I've been so busy last few weeks, I haven't been able to go back. I've been kind of tied up with my wife and some medical stuff, but I have no problem going back. In fact, I would have probably seen one of those two movies, just didn't have the ability this week. So yeah.
Okay, so that is Spiral. It's currently now out in theaters, and that is a strong recommend from you, Eric Holmes. You have
I wouldn't say strong recommend. This movie could have been fantastic, like with a quick rewrite. It could have been like great, but as far as Saw movies go, I think this is probably one of the better ones.
Okay, cool. That is good. And you also saw The Battery?
Yes, we got The Battery. You can find it on DVD, I suppose.
It's written and directed by Jeremy Gardner, and quote, the personalities of two former baseball players clash as they traverse the rural back roads of a post-plague New England.
Yeah.
Of course, teeming with the undead. How did I know that Eric Holmes would watch a movie that is quote unquote teeming with the undead? Eric Holmes, as he changes the light for some mood, or what is that, for some undead mood?
It wasn't the undead, it was the ungreg.
Ungreg, very good. The ungregs. Those who like Snyder. No, anyways, The Battery. How did you hear about this?
I don't know. I really don't know. I came across it at Entertainment, and I was like, oh, The Battery. Someone told me about that, and I thought it was Bruce, and I thought maybe it was Andrew Martin, and I asked both of them, and both of them said no, it wasn't me. So someone recommended it to me. I know that for sure. Actually, I don't know that for sure. I suspect that strongly. But I have no idea. And if you're listening and it was you that said, hey, dumbass, it was me that said, hey, Eric, you should watch The Battery. Please tell me so I can thank you, because I kind of like this one a bit. And this one's a little more day in the life kind of movie. This is the post-zombie apocalypse, and there's two guys, and they're just hanging out, doing their day-to-day life, staying away from zombies to the point where so one of the guys, he doesn't want to kill zombies. Feels at some point he gets tricked into it, and he hates it, like just gets sick with himself that he even had to do that. The other guy's he's been killing zombies so long, he's like just bored of it. I don't know if I should mention that, but that was a good part. There's a part in here that's would turn some people off for sure. I thought it was kind of hilarious. And his buddy, when he came back, thought it was hilarious too. I guess I'll leave it at that. And a little creepy on the part of the not zombie. But so they finally, on the radio, they finally get a hold of someone. And they're like, hey, where are you at? And they're like, don't, they heard two people talking on the radio. And they're like, hey, we're so-and-so. Where are you guys at? We want to hang with you and we can help out and blah, 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 this and that. And they're like, stay away. Get away. But there's a girl and one of the guys in the group's like really smitten with her voice. Like he's got this manic pixie dream girl stuck in his head. And so he just can't let it go. And that ends up being his downfall because as you may imagine, they pop up later on in the movie and then they get stuck in a car. And they're stuck in a car surrounded by zombies. And now they're living in a car. And the battery's pretty good. It kind of does the Zack Snyder thing where it takes a while getting to where it needs to go. But in the case of this, I kind of liked watching how the characters kind of did their thing. So I let that go. And it ends with, I don't want to say it ends with like a cliffhanger, but they could easily do a sequel of this. And in fact, I kind of want to see start the movie in the car and end where it could possibly go by the end of this movie. I wouldn't hold my breath for a sequel, but if they made one, I'd be pretty happy with it. And overall, I do recommend The Battery.
So that is The Battery. You actually purchased the DVD over at your local Entertainment, I believe, Eric Holmes.
Yep.
Again, written and directed by Jeremy Gardner, who is also one of the co-stars in the movie. So he's actually a DIY filmmaker. As of recently, 2019, he released a movie called After Midnight, which co-stars Brea Grant. So, or I believe her name is Brea Grant. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. But Eric,
one thing that is kind of annoying about I found annoying about The Battery. Some people might like it. It does get a bit music video.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's long parts where they're just listening to music, and you just do the music montage thing. But I mean, the music's good, so I kind of let that go. But it's just a fair warning if you're like me and that kind of annoys you sometimes when they do that a lot. This has a lot of that in it, so be warned. Okay.
So that is The Battery. The next one that you're rounding out is the 2 hour and 6 minute movie. I'm assuming this is Dark Waters, the one with Mark Ruffalo. Is that the one? No, Dark Water. Oh yes, Dark Waters. Which you actually purchased on Blu-ray, directed by Todd Haynes, written by Nathaniel Rich and Mario Correa. I believe there's some of the screenwriters here. Stars Anne Hathaway, again, the aforementioned Ruffalo, Tim Robbins. Why did you purchase this on Blu-ray, Eric Holmes? Had you seen it before? Was this just a blind buy, or you just love Todd Haynes?
No. Anderson, I remember, was raving about it, and it was a pretty much this is not a courtroom drama. There's a little bit of it in this, but it's still kind of that courtroom drama adjacent. And right. It's just a movie I always wanted to see and never got around to. And now I finally did. And this movie is great. I fucking love this movie. Based on a true story. Mark Ruffalo plays Rob. I don't know. I always kept forgetting how to actually pronounce her name. Rob Bilott. Anne Hathaway, I believe, plays his wife. What did you love the most about Dark Waters? Does it feel like a Todd Haynes movie as well? Todd Haynes being the one who's previously directed the HBO miniseries Mildred Pierce. He also directed Far From Heaven, all that stuff. So I don't know. I know the name Todd Haynes, and I'm sure I've seen some of his movies.
Yes, you have. Velvet Goldmine as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is nothing like Velvet Goldmine. Here's Velvet Goldmine, and Dark Waters is over here. There's I guess I don't really notice his fingerprints on this. Sure. Apparently, I'm just not familiar enough to be able to pick that out. But this one was really good. It was basically a procedural. You kind of find out that there's DuPont's poison in the water hole. And as a result, people are getting sick and getting cancers. One particular guy is guy kind of sounded like Sling Blade throughout most of the movie. And look at that them there cows. Them look healthy to you? I don't think so. I don't think not feeding them. Don't go and do that. But and then Mark Ruffalo's kind of he's kind of doing DuPont a solid. Kind of look, this guy's complaining about this let me just look into it and give me whatever you have. And then, we can, Mark Ruffalo's perspective is this is DuPont's fault, but they don't know that this is happening. So he's going to the higher up saying, look, one of your lackeys here is fucking up and it's messing up this guy's cows. Let me look into this. And then we can fix that right away. And the guy's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then the more he looks into it, the more the guy thinks that they would find out something, they would fix it, and that would be the end of it. But then Mark Ruffalo uncovers some stuff that people at DuPont would rather he not uncover. And then it just becomes a procedural kind of pre-courtroom drama, we'll say, because it's mostly about building evidence, finding evidence, discovery. They mentioned discovery many times in this. But yeah, this is a really good movie. And then it ends in a satisfying way as much as you can with a movie like this. This is a story that's ongoing and, similar to Zodiac. Zodiac, they're not going to end with Zodiac where they catch the killer and haha, we saved the day, because this is based on a real event. So, and that hasn't happened yet, but it's still rather satisfying in spite of that. They found a way to do that. And there's a lot of heartache, a lot of headaches that Mark Ruffalo's character had to go through, and the people in the town had to go through as well. And it's kind of DuPont's kind of fucked up for going about things the way they did in this.
The Blu-ray, is there any special features worth noting at all that you?
I watched like 30 movies this year or this week, so I didn't have time to go through the special features. But it looks like we got Uncovering Dark Waters, Casa Being a Hero, and The Real People, which I guess are must be
featurettes.
Featurettes, I imagine. Oh, and it's got the real guy, forget the real guy's name,
Rob Lot.
Him and his wife have a cameo in this, and
very cool.
I believe they have a couple. They do the Bernie thing, where a couple of the actual people play themselves in the movie. Not a lot, but a couple of them. So that's always fun when. That seems to be a new thing that's kind of gaining favor. I mean, we talked about it with Chloe Zhao in Nomadland and all her movies, and they did a little bit in here. I don't think it started with Bernie, but that's the first time I noticed anyone doing it in a movie. They do a little bit of it here, and good on them.
Cool. So that is Dark Waters, starring Mark Ruffalo, Anne Hathaway, directed by Todd Haynes. Out on Blu-ray. Eric Holmes purchased it, and if you want to stream it, it's on. I don't even know how to say that. Is that Foodco or Foodco? Showtime. If you have it's also on DirecTV streaming. Fudge. What is that? Bruce? Do you know what the name of that streaming service is?
Oh, fucko! What you got a problem with this?
My fault. Fubo. Sorry, Fubo. Sorry, Fubo. I was being a total
Fubu. Is this Fubu? I remember that back in the early 90s, late 80s. Fubu, there's a lot of that going around.
Sorry, Fubo. I was being a total fucko in trying to pronounce your name. It's also available on Showtime, DirecTV, Showtime On Demand, all that stuff. Or again, like Eric Holmes, you can get Dark Waters on Blu-ray. Now we are closing. Oh, Eric Holmes. Yes.
I was going to say, like me, you could buy it on Blu-ray and then rent it on YouTube.
You can rent it. Yeah, buy it on Blu-ray like Eric does. And
literally have it right here. I'm like, but the YouTube's right, the TV's right here, and it's got it in it. I suck at life, but go on. I'm sorry.
No worries. I definitely have to see Dark. Bruce, by the way, are you ever going to see Dark Waters? Maybe that's one of the.
I saw it.
Oh, you saw it. You ended up. So do you agree? Are you high? Yeah. Like in? Okay. High on the.
Yeah. Did Todd Haynes do Safe? Was that one of his?
Yes,
movies too?
That's it.
Very I could see those as being kind of a nice pair, even though they're not the same, but they're both about like environmental and weirdness, and one's early and one's later. Yeah, it's a really solid movie. Dark Waters is really good.
Okay, and a little recommendation from Bruce Perky. Just Safe and Dark Waters might be a really interesting double feature.
Sounds like a safe pick to me.
Oh, very good, Eric. Safe pick. Speaking of Dark Waters and whether a movie is going to be safe or not, Bruce Perky, we're closing out with your What's in the Box segment. What do you have for us? This might be a very interesting movie, right?
Interesting, yes, for sure. Well, Mr. Pete Abeyta from the middle class film class. We might even have a little information from him personally that might appear here.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually put your little mini review that Bruce Perky sent, or mini discussion or something. I'm gonna put it in here. So listeners, you're gonna listen to Pete Abeyta from Middle Class Film Class talking about Post Tenebras Lux before Bruce gets into it, because I like to interrupt Bruce all the time before he gets to the meat of the things. So, Pete, here's to you. Here you go.
Hey there, Find Your Film. Pete Abeyta here. You may know me from shit posting memes on the Cinematics Facebook page or from Middle Class Film Class, my show. I'm excited to hear what Bruce and maybe Eric and Greg thought of Post Tenebras Lux. I don't know if Bruce is going to be able to rope both of them into watching it, but I hope so. When I put the film into the box, I thought the idea was to put in something that Bruce had never seen before. And I also figured that Bruce either would have not had the desire to watch this or he turned it off halfway through, which I had some desires to as well. It's a tough watch. But I really don't know anybody who's seen this or really even heard of this strange Mexican ultra artsy and strange movie besides Anderson. TFE is where I first heard about it years and years ago, and I finally got around to watching it in the early months of 2021. So I don't hate Post Tenebras Lux, but I also don't recommend it to just about anybody unless you're looking for a movie that's as uncomfortable as it is meandering and beautiful at times. It kind of gave me a Terrence Malick Tree of Life feel, and I would venture to guess that Shane Carruth took some inspiration for upstream color from a few scenes. A little too cool for me, but I'm glad I watched it. Anyways, keep up the great work, guys. Love the show. Find Your Film. Fantastic stuff. And listeners, if you feel so inclined, please head on over and check out my show, Middle Class Film Class. Good times to be had by all. A lot of fun. Thanks for having me on. Can't wait to listen.
All right. Thank you, Pete. I felt his was short and sweet, whereas the thing that I contributed to their show was long and not so sweet and very boring. But that's okay. He did a better job than I
It was
did.
long and hard.
It was long and, yeah.
Okay. No in
And wet. So wet.
Very good. Very good.
So, speaking of wet, Post Tenebras Lux, 2012, directed by Carlos Regadas.
Yes.
Yes, which seems to be a really interesting. I would say, okay, let's start this out. This is kind of real experimental filmmaking, so this is not an easy watch. Even if you love it, this is not an easy watch. We'll probably say that from the start. Opening scenes, really memorable. There's a little girl in a field with some dogs and horses, and it's stormy, and it just stays at her level for, what do you say, maybe, I don't know, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. And
Around that, yeah.
I thought you were going to say hours, but go on.
yeah, yeah. And then we cut to this glowing demonic figure walking into somebody's living room with a lunch box, a naked glowing red devil figure. And at that point, I never said this. So I watched that much of the movie about 6 years ago, maybe. And originally it was free of streaming somewhere, and I had watched that much and I never went back to it. So this gave me an excuse to go back to it. So I had not got past those two first scenes. And I thought, well, this is just going to be this kind of surreal montage of stuff for 100 minutes, something like that. And it actually does kind of have a story after that, very slow, but the basic concept is we end up following this family. The father is Juan, played by Adolfo Castro, and Natalia, played by Natalia Acevedo, and then they have two little children, and one of them is the girl that we saw in the field with the dogs. And then you basically are following them for the rest of this movie, but it's not a traditional narrative in any sense of the way you would imagine a narrative. You'll sit with them for very long scenes that are just like them in their house with their kids, and the kids are just kind of playing, and they might have a small conversation. And you'll have these really kind of almost mundane moments of just kind of normal life. And then you'll have other scenes where all of a sudden the dad will randomly just start beating a dog to death. You'd be like, what the fuck is happening? And then you'll have more random scenes of some local people and them just sitting around and talking. And then they'll go to another scene where they're having like an orgy in some bathhouse with a bunch of people. This is a very, I don't know how to describe this. I'm going to get your guys' input because this is a very
random movie.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I can admire that he's doing something here, but this doesn't seem as intentional to me as like David Lynch weirdness. David Lynch weirdness seems to always kind of captivate me with really interesting weird, surrealistic moments. Whereas here, there's some moments that they're beautiful, sure. Some of them. But a lot of them are just like, why is this why are we doing this? A perfect example, we have a scene where Natalia badly sings a Neil Young song on an out of tune piano, and we get to hear the whole song. I'm just like, why? Go, Eric. You help me on this one.
I actually like that part.
Yeah.
That was one of that part and the devil part.
Yeah.
The devil part of the beginning, I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then the devil did nothing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is what we're doing. We're going to do a bunch of nothing. But this was long. I'll give it that. It was definitely long. I think you hit the nail on the head, because David Lynch certainly gets weird with it. Maya Deren, she gets weird with it, but she's, she respects her audience enough to make shorts instead of longs. So that's always nice. And also, again, with Maya Deren and David Lynch, that there seems to be some sort of connective tissue, like whether theme or that it kind of, even though it doesn't make sense, it kind of does make sense. This just seems like I just shot a bunch of stuff over 20 years. They have nothing to do with anything, and we'll just cut it all together, and for no reason.
The synopsis of Post Tenebras Lux, it goes, quote, Juan and his urban family live in the Mexican countryside where they enjoy and suffer a world apart. And nobody knows if these two worlds are complementary or if they strive to eliminate one another. I believe I saw this maybe 8 years ago, 8 years ago. And I thought that Regatas was trying to make some kind of commentary, social commentary on living away from civilization, because if you live away from civilization, maybe you might find some kind of inner peace in this sanctum. And maybe this was a critique on civilization versus going back into nature, all that kind of stuff. That's what I was thinking 7 or 8 years ago. Now hearing you guys review it, I was trying to ascribe a lot of themes to it, maybe, Bruce. I don't know, maybe. Or maybe it's just I don't know. That's what that was my impression of the movie. Yeah.
I was going to do my attack at it too. And it's something similar. I feel like there's trying to be something about, like, here's this kind of suburban, they're obviously much more wealthy than most of the people in that area. They have this kind of nice house compared to the ones around it. Nice in the sense that it's expensive. And I think there's supposed to be something about how their disconnection based on being in society and more connected and urban and all this like non-natural stuff is supposed to make them more disconnected, maybe. Yeah. But the problem I had with that is that might work if we saw the opposite. Like if we saw all the people who are more connected being like way more like spiritual or giving or loving or family, but we see them being just as terrible to each other and to the people around them. Like we have a person there who's, terrible to his family and does terrible, violent things and seems very disconnected and is addicted to drugs, and there's all kinds of so I don't think that if that's the theme that really connects either. And once again, going back to Lynch, he's dealing with dream logic and like, alternate realities, and like you could decode Lynch, but also I feel like Lynch is more interesting even if you don't understand it. Usually his stuff is more interesting, whereas this is like moments, like Eric said, moments were definitely very interesting and cool, but then other moments were like just like, why are we still here for 10 minutes? So it was like almost vignettes. And last but not least, and then I'll get you guys make some final words, we had just talked last week about the boxy aspect ratio and whether that, and how that almost always works, right? Well, here he does his boxy aspect ratio. If you didn't notice, he did.
I didn't.
Notice. But even worse, on top of that, he said, okay, I'm going to use the boxy aspect ratio. Okay, fine, whatever. Then he used this weird filter in the entire movie where the edges are like this weird filter that causes like the edges to kind of fractile out and do this weird like mirroring thing, which meant that only the center of your image was like really visibly normal. And he did it the whole movie.
You put a glass on the
a bottle
frame. Yeah.
On the end of a bottle
frame or something. around
for
the
no
lens?
reason. It made no reasons thematically. It wasn't used in certain scenes that were dreamy and other scenes that weren't. It was used in the entire movie.
I mean,
And
it was distracting. So
it
good
was
on them for
distracting and
that.
annoying. Yeah. So that was, I definitely took off a half star or something just for that alone. So, but I mean, if you're into experimental filmmaking, definitely give it a try, I would say.
And as far as for just something that will stay in your brain for a while, there are
yeah.
a couple of moments there are a couple of scenes that if you watch this movie from beginning to end, it will be embedded into your mind, possibly for the rest of your life. That's why I think on the base level, it's worth, if you're a diehard cinephile and you end up even not liking this movie, there's going to be a couple of images that will be just scarred into your mind. Maybe that might not be a good thing, but just FYI. Eric.
I didn't know about this before today, but the director did another movie called Japon, Japon, or Japon, or I don't know how you would pronounce it, and that's on Criterion. And I almost I saw the cover and I read the back and go, oh, this sounds weird. I think I'll like this. And I almost got it, but I didn't because it was like $50-$60 because Criterion releases are pretty. And then I watched Post Tenebras Lux, and I'm like, I wonder if I dodged a bullet. But at the same time, Post Tenebras Lux is just weird enough that I'm not gonna pay $50 for the. There's no way in hell I'm gonna pay $50 for that. But if they have price sale that Criterion does, maybe I'll go back and check that one out.
I would say for me, like a final word on this, it's kind of like if you're a cinephile, like Greg says, if you like to check out weirdo filmmakers, right? Like you want to see El Topo or Holy Mountain, at least try it out. You want to see some John Waters, at least try one out. You want to see David Lynch, at least try one out. Like we're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
So this is one of those weirdo filmmakers. He's definitely doing his own thing, and his flavor might just be your thing. So I would say if you're really into movies and you want to try something, you should definitely at least give it a try.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
I would agree with that.
So that is Post Tenebras Lux. Thank you so much, Pete Abeyta, for that recommendation and foisting that movie on us on Find Your Film for Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes to watch. I decided not to rewatch it because I still have nightmares from 8 years. I can't go into saunas feeling the same way. Yeah,
and by the way, it's only available for rental or to purchase, so you can't stream it anywhere that I could see. Like
you can rent it on YouTube,
and you could rent it. Yeah, I mean, I rented it, but I mean, you can't just.
It's pretty cheap. I think it was like $3.
Yeah, I think that's what I did. $3.
Golly, Greg, we're on the moving picture cameras, and Bruce Perky's about to pull something from the box. Greg,
what's in the box, Bruce?
What's in the box?
Whoa, extra voices.
Bruce, what's in the box?
Tell us what's in the box, Bruce.
My kid's probably outside the door, hoping I'll pick his turd. Let's see if I did. Oh. Well, this is something that Greg put in the box. I don't know if you remembered this.
Oh,
Rams.
Yes, Rams, folks. I'm not talking about the remake with Sam Elliott. I'm talking about the original one.
Rams.
So hopefully, yes. Okay, Rams. I really love this movie, and you know what? I'll probably do a rewatch on it as well. So Rams.
So wait. Didn't we make a rule though? Since I'm trying to think now. If we pick something Greg put in the box, then maybe the next week he has to do something that we decide on.
I forget the rule. I'll
Sure. We better come up with a rule for this, have we? What do you think, Eric?
I think we should crowdsource this.
See what happens.
I like that.
No, maybe that'll be an interesting thing. But
whatever movie gets the most votes, Greg will have to watch. And we could watch too, but Greg will have to watch for the box for the following week.
Okay. Sounds good. So yeah.
Greg is like,
so next week you're gonna pick something for me to watch. I'll do it. I accept Zack Snyder and Brian De Palma films as well. Anything that you have in your mind, Zack Snyder, De Palma, or Lumet. Those are in Sam Fuller. Those are the ones.
Zack Snyder's The Fury.
Zack Snyder's The Fury. Can you imagine if you remade that movie, The Fury, Zack Snyder's remake of The Fury? So,
or Carrie.
All right, so that is it. That is it. Oh yeah, my goodness. Speaking of which, I actually attended the remake of the Carrie press junket, which stars Chloë Grace Moretz. And by the way, Chloë Grace Moretz is the is the star of Shadow in the Cloud. Before we go, Bruce Perky, why should we see Shadow in the Cloud?
Oh, why should you see it? Well, it's my kind of
Yeah.
cheese as opposed to the other kind of cheese that we talked about earlier. It's World War II. It's 83 minutes long. It's Chloë Grace Moretz on a B-17 fortress with a bunch of super sexist guys. She's stuck in a ball turret below it. There might be gremlins.
What?
You kind of buried the lead there for me, but
Yeah, wait a second. Is this just intentionally like that? Is this movie was it supposed to be exactly like what you just said right now?
I think so, but it is absurd. It's really dumb in parts, but I enjoyed every 128 minutes of it or whatever. We just 200 and whatever minutes that we just watched in Zack Snyder. I enjoyed the hell out of this stupid, fun movie. It goes from absurd to super absurd by the last 30 minutes, and I loved it. I ate it up with a spoon.
So now let's just say the director. The director is Roseanne Liang. I'm probably mispronouncing Liang. Okay. What if Roseanne was intentionally making it stupid? Would this get even higher marks for you? That because it probably went this way intentionally, right?
Well, this is that weird thing. It's really hard to catch that perfect spot, right? If you try to be too like cheesy and absurd on purpose, it becomes like a trauma movie or like one of those like one of those Sharknado. Yeah. This movie I feel like is trying to be a kick-ass, a little bit over the top historical action movie with gremlins, but it doesn't work really quite on those terms, but it works on terms that work for me, which is just the absurdity level that it goes to. And I like it. I love it.
All right. I forgot. I apologize. Apologies, Bruce Perky, for actually skimming this over. It's
on Hulu.
Streaming on Hulu, streaming on Hoopla. Are we saying a solid recommend from you, Bruce?
Let's just say that I would say as a movie, it's probably only a 3 or so, but as entertainment value, it's a 5 or so. So I give this a 4 stars.
4 stars.
At least 2 stars more than Army of the Dead.
Okay. Bruce Perky,
and at least an hour shorter.
Okay, so Bruce Perky, Army of the Dead, The Dry, Shadow in the Cloud, Post Tenebras Lux. What's the best movie of the week for you?
For me?
Yeah.
Shadow in the Cloud. I watched this movie while my wife was having surgery. Literally watched this and enjoyed the fuck out of it.
That's awesome. Wow. That is deep. That is really deep. Okay, Eric Holmes, Gauntlet Thrown. Are we going to see Shadow in the Cloud? Are we going to do a movie rewind next week? What do you think? 83 minutes.
More than likely. And I was also thinking because at the beginning of the reviews, we always kind of go what the movie's about.
Yeah.
I think instead of like reading the plot synopsis, it's like, what's the movie about? It's about 96 minutes. I think that would sum it up more.
I take offense when you said more than likely, when Bruce Perky was basically saying Gremlins. This is one of these movies that you have to just start ingesting as I press stop on this record button right now.
Yeah, that more than likely means assuming I don't get hit by a meteor or shot or any number of things that could happen that would prevent me otherwise to see it.
Okay, I'm so excited.
It's stupid. I'm just telling you, it's stupid.
Seriously, you said it's stupid, but you just gave it a 4-star rating. That is not a stupid rating. That is a good rating. Okay, so I'm excited. That is a solid recommend from Bruce Perky. You know what? As much as I love Army of the Dead, I'm the one. Look, I'm all over that movie. That got a negatory review from Bruce and a slight uptick from Eric. But between that, I'm the only one who really liked The Dry. I am assuming. Wait,
I was moderate recommend. Yeah,
moderate recommend. But I guess maybe the gem of the week, folks, might be, you know what? Cheat code. Watch the opening moments of Post Tenebras Lux and then dive right into Shadow in the Cloud. How about that? You just saved, folks. If you're listening to the end of this podcast, you just wasted 90 minutes of your time. That's the cheat code. Moments of Post Tenebras Lux and watch Shadow in the mother effing cloud. By the way, we are sponsored by the filmmakers of Shadow in the Cloud. We love Shadow in the Cloud. That is our big reveal. This is a Shadow in the Cloud podcast. Eric Holmes, what do you think of that?
That was another Cheat Codes with Greg Srizzavasi from Find Your Film.
By the way, you know what? I'm gonna beat this to death. If Eric Holmes and I really love Shadow in the Cloud, is there a spoiler episode in the works? Bruce Berkey.
Oh,
Is there
it could
something-
be, but you
Are
guys
you
will probably
kidding
hate it. I bet you one of you will hate it for sure. But if you guys like it, we could do a spoiler episode that would be hilarious because this has got a lot of
Hey.
ridiculous bullshit in it. I'm just telling you now.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about Shadow. You know what? There's as we speak, listeners. I'm a huge I like crypto and I like basketball games. I'm gonna stop right now. I was gonna watch a Laker game, but you know what? I'm gonna actually start probably watching a little bit of the Laker game. But after that, Shadow in the Cloud, right in the offing. So very good. Eric Holmes, final thoughts before we go.
I have no thoughts, but
No,
you know what? Post
You have no
Tenebras
thoughts.
Lux.
Yes.
I kind of want to go back to that for just a second, just for a final
Joke,
thought.
is that a joke? Is that a joke? What?
No, Bruce said a thing about that, about it being weird, but it might be your kind of weird.
Mm.
And I think that's actually it seemed to be kind of a theme for this. The Spiral. It's not great, but this might be your kind of movie. The fucking Dry. Not for me, but it might be your kind of weird.
Yes.
Post Tenebras Lux, not my weird, but maybe it's your weird. I like that. We've kind of done that anyway, but I like that idea going forward. That not my weird, but you should check it out because it might be your kind of weird.
That's a very good point, Eric. And you know what? I wish going back to what you said, Bruce, about the whole idea about if you like that murder procedural thing, slow moving thing, it's up for you. And that was my kind of weird for The Dry. And I totally understood both of your takes on The Dry. As always, per usual, since Eric Holmes doesn't have any real thoughts and I don't have any real thoughts, we're both pretty much morons. We're pretty much morons next to Bruce Perky. Bruce, you're the
Greg, we're on the moving pictures and Bruce is there. What's in his thoughts? What's in your head, Bruce? What's in your head? What's in your head?
What's in my box? What's in my noggin? What's in my noggin?
What's in your noggin, Bruce?
Nada. There ain't nada in my noggin. Nada.
Nada. Okay, very good. That nada is nada. That is a very existential way of ending Find Your Film, folks. Hopefully that puts a little pep in your step or a little bit of dark waters in your residual wet coffee. Folks, we will see you next week on Find Your Film. You'll have a good one. And I don't know why I said y'all, because I guess I'm just a fake person. Signing out from Eric Holmes, Bruce Perky, and myself. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week watching movies.